Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, as well as on Amazon, and my books are in audio as well. I'm very happy to have a brand new guest on. I have Olga Wilson from California. And she's a mom and an immigrant and a survivor of systemic abuse within the California family court system. But more importantly, she wants to speak today on behalf of the countless other parents, immigrant and non-immigrant, who have been silenced, targeted, punished for doing what any decent parent would do, which would be to protect their child. Now, she came to this country with hope in the justice system, but what she found instead was corruption, collusion, cruelty. In Butte County, California, she lost custody of her daughter without trial, without evidence, and without a voice. Even questionable if her interpreter was even saying what needed to be said. Despite video recorded disclosures of abuse, reports from mandated reporters, and her desperate efforts to seek help, Olga was mocked in open court, threatened with jail, labeled vexatious litigant, and her daughter taken away. The evidence was either sealed, ignored, or erased. The truth was too convenient for their system as well as their false narrative. And this is happening all over the United States as well as globally. And I welcome you, Olga Wilson. I'm glad you're speaking out. Where are you at now with your case?
Yes, good morning, Marianne. Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm Olga, Butte County, California. So currently, excuse me, I have two open cases in appellate court. It's a third appellate district court in California.
Mhm.
Um, so basically, um, I'm striving to, of course, pass the stage. I hope it will result in something. However, um, unfortunately, I heard I was exploring and spoke to many people, and I know how difficult it is to win the appellate court case, and basically I'm not given it too high of expectations. I am striving perhaps to move to a higher court where we're outside of the state legislature, because we know that each state does whatever they want to
Mhm.
outside of constitution. So I'm hoping that appellate court will resolve, but who knows? The federal court or the United States Supreme Court, I'll go all the way up to the top if needed.
And that's great to hear because some parents are just so, paralyzed with grief and anger and they cannot fight back. What has given you the strength to fight back?
Absolutely. I'm very well familiar with this condition and stage. I'm basically myself became disabled because of these litigation abusive tactics. And I'm just, every time that I have this darkness in my life, it comes and goes as waves, basically. I always remember the eyes of my daughter. That I know that she wants me to come back to her life.
Mm.
And honestly, I did it intentionally. I still see my daughter once a week under supervision for 2 hours only. When it all started, I held her tight and I looked in her eyes, and I think I did it for both of us. I said, I promise you, I will never leave you, ever. Whatever happens, I will never leave you. I promise you, I'll go all the way up.
Mhm.
Of course, you cannot give promises during supervised visits, but I think she understood me because it was like a silent moment. And every time I'm appearing in this dark spot, I remember that moment. So I promised her I can't give up.
I think she needed to hear that.
Yes.
And
Uh,
she's how old?
right now, she's 8 years old.
Uh-huh. I think she can. handle hearing that. I'm not a psychologist, but you know how you're lectured on what you can and can't say to your child? Like, you don't want to say, I was told, don't tell your child you miss them. That's going to create anxiety. No, the abuser's creating the anxiety. I don't know why they can't see this because you and I have similar issues where you had the silver bullet tactic where someone makes a false allegation on you. So, you know, mine was CPS using emotional child abuse. What did they pull on you?
Right. So basically, this situation occurred 2 years ago on June 1st of 2023. I was served with the ex parte request for order granted on the same day without a notice to me, where the full custody, legal and physical, was given to my ex-husband, um, with only 1 to 2 supervised visits a week for 2 hours per each visit. So they basically are exploding my origin and my immigration status. So I came to the United States of America in 2012.
Mhm,
2012, it's 13 years, it's been in March, and my daughter was born here. However, we both are holding the dual citizenship. So I'll just say it, right? So I immigrated from Russia,
mhm,
and however, big part of my family is still residing in Russia. But I mean, in general, my family is spread all over the world. We have
mhm, mhm.
Italian part, Germany. My aunt lives in Canada. My cousin as well. She travels a lot around the globe, and so it was said that on the Mother's Day, specifically, I believe it was May 14th of 2023, I attempted to abduct our daughter to Russia.
Mhm.
So, okay, so the claim is May 14th. If you think that I am so dangerous, like, why do you bring it on June 1st, first of all? Why
Mhm.
didn't you come immediately? And I mean, and mind you that May 14th was Mother's Day, and we have the implemented holiday schedule. We had an implemented holiday schedule, upon which I had my daughter in my timeshare. And I have even, I don't know how, it's probably the high power. When this happened to me, I had all this chaos going on with my paperwork on the floor in piles. And
Mhm.
I just turned around, and it happened to be, I see this receipt laying in the middle of my paperwork from that day from the Sacramento Zoo where I took her in the amusement park.
Mhm.
I mean, it's unworkable evidence that where I was. And basically, Sacramento is located pretty much our 40 minutes, our 30 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, depends on the traffic from Chico. So we came back and she went to school the next morning at 8:30.
And they tried to say you were a flight risk.
That is correct. Yeah, that and then, going down the road, it was, of course, that's how they act always, like, oh, if it's not this, proven that they were lying, then it's something else. And the
Mhm.
story was changing. Oh, her aunt lives in Canada, so yeah, she she tried to go through Canada. Oh, and all these things made up, like I and my daughter were returned by the TSA. That's why we didn't go. I mean, and mind you that this is the second time within the past 6 years that they do this to me.
Mhm. So
First,
they keep saying you're a flight risk.
that is correct. Yes. So 2019, it was pretty similar situation when I was served. Well, basically, he crossed filed restraining order when mine was kind of in place, granted, but I didn't want to serve him, so I changed my mind because
Mm.
I was so unfamiliar. It was the beginning of everything
Mm.
with the court system of the United States, and with all that was going on without any support system here in the United States, I didn't know how it works and what to do. And I was advised to um, talk to the domestic violence organization, Catalyst in Chico, California. And I showed them my paperwork and I said, I don't know how to comprehend this. I believe that it's not okay.
Mm.
It's not okay that I'm physically attacked. It's not okay that I'm followed with the video cameras and constantly around the house and provoked
Mm.
constantly into some kind of conflict situation. It's not okay that my daughter observes all these things, even though she's small and all of this, and financial restraints because I was a stay-at-home mom, and plus I'm an immigrant.
Mhm.
Even though I was employed actually before I got pregnant with my daughter, I worked in a human resources and I loved it. So,
Mm.
and they just advised that I am a victim of domestic violence and they can help me to create a restraining order. But the deeper, so it was created by them, help was their help, and basically filed within the court and transferred to the sheriff's department for the service. But I was hesitant because when I did deep research onto what it is, I felt so bad for him. I couldn't imagine that I would commit such a cruel act. Like, yes, he's violent, but he is the father of my child, and I can't imagine him appear to be on streets. Maybe we can resolve it outside of all of this.
Mm.
But the thing is that by that time, so basically he knew that I was attending Catalyst because they also provided few free therapeutic sessions at that time, and he knew that I was attending it, and basically he stabbed me in the back because while all of this was happening, he started to behave better and kind of play this game in support of what I was pursuing to bring peace and happiness into the family and get our
Mm.
relationship better. So he invited my mother from Russia in writing, basically wrote her invitation letter, so his mother. And I was at the time ready to get back to work, and I found great position within the local bank in human resources department. And he invited my mom basically so my mom can stay with the child because that's our first child, both of us, and it would be pretty traumatic for her as well when I'm getting back to work after 2.5 years of being stay-at-home mom. So
Mm.
we invited my mom so she can stay with the baby and just enjoy, the family and all. And when my mom arrived on the 28th of June of 2019, and I and my daughter, our daughter, we went to the Sacramento airport to meet my mom, pick her up and bring her home. At this particular moment, being constantly on the phone with me, basically controlling my movements, he hired an attorney and he created a restraining order under a different case number to be a petitioner and file for divorce alongside under this case number. So basically, he cross-filed the restraining order to become a petitioner. It was just tactics. So when we came back, he never showed up. And then he never showed up during the whole weekend, so which was 29th and 30th of June 2019. And the 1st of July, when my mom was cooking dinner, waiting for the family, the kid was in a daycare. I took her for a couple hours so my mom could adjust to the time change.
Right.
And I was walking from my office to the car full of happiness that we're gonna have a family dinner, but my car got caught behind on an empty parking spot, and the guy in the dark glasses jumped out, threw the packet of documents in my windshield, and took a picture of me like I was an animal in a zoo through my
Mm.
windshield. He left. So basically, I called my mom being in shock, and I basically drove to the police station with this packet of documents on my windshield. And I called mom, who doesn't speak English. I said, Mom, go to the police department. I'm sending a cab for you, and I'll pay for it. And when we both arrived there, my mom dropped the dinner, whatever she was cooking, the
Mm.
luggage is there, just in my home clothes, and they confirmed that I get served with a restraining order. I cannot get close to my house. I cannot get close to my child, her daycare, etc. So me and my mom appeared to be in the month of July, just basically, which is, mind you, like that year was pretty hard, but it's
Oh,
every year.
yes.
Yeah, Butte County is famous for uh, campfire and the park fire recently happening.
Hmm. Hmm.
That was Butte County, like 110, 120 degrees sometimes. So yeah, nothing left.
So he, so he purposely flew your mother over here and created a big mess.
I believe that it was a strategy, yes, to create this false narrative because that restraining order that he filed was saying that he had no idea that my mom is arriving into the country, and he strongly believes that she arrived to orchestrate an international child abduction.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
But wasn't he the one that flew her over?
He,
Did he do it? I mean, did he offer to fly her over or?
yes, he
Yeah.
offered it. Yeah, and in fact that 2018 and 2019, I and our daughter, with his permission, which was not authorized, of course, we traveled all the way to Russia, and he joined us in there in the middle of our 2018 trip. We left the baby with my mom, and we traveled all over Moscow, St. Petersburg, and because it was a World Cup championship at that moment, and
Hmm.
yeah,
And then he flips it on you. And this happens to parents all the time when you don't see it coming. And now you're the target parent. And so then he probably labeled you unstable, like, I was.
he did. So that's what they're trying to do. They attack you first without a single evidence.
Hmm.
Uh, And it doesn't work, unfortunately, that you're innocent until proven guilty. That's why we call it silver bullet tactics, right? And
Hmm.
and especially when these judges who are, I'm sorry, but a lot of them are so incompetent and they just don't care.
Hmm.
That the child's best interest is the biggest lie I've ever heard. You know,
Right. Right. I mean, their pocketbooks are their biggest interest. They don't care about your kids. They didn't care about my kids.
absolutely. And you know that I am in connection with a lot of support groups, and actually this is one of the suggestions for parents in a similar situation because that's their target to get you isolated. Don't fall for that. And please go online. There is so many support groups.
Hmm.
We are all in the same situation. We can have different circumstances,
Hmm.
but the there it's drawn, it's a similar scenarios because it's created by design by them. They want us to be isolated and silent. So
Right.
find support with the same people because there are so many groups that don't charge anything. They just trying to brainstorm and maybe come up with some bigger strategy on how to overcome this. And so I was basically saying it because not this, but about the immigration status, I wanted to bring it up.
Hmm.
When you said that they deemed me unstable, yes. So immigrant parents, it's like an extra, hoop we have to jump over because so what my person did is basically they just printed out this manual list of things from the international whatever abduction unit. They say, well, when you suspect that your child might be abducted, here's the signs. So uh, the parent's family is still living in there abroad. This parent is financially unstable. This parent is trying to sell something. This parent is not having or just recently quit their jobs. That was it. And that's enough to basically rip your child out. But let's analyze this, at least a few things.
Hmm.
So the parent has a family overseas. Of course, I do have family overseas. I'm an immigrant. I immigrated here when I was 28 years old.
Hmm.
I just decided to flip my life, and I believe in democracy and freedom, and that I'll have better life here for myself and my future
Hmm.
children, and maybe will bring my family here when I'm established. My father, during all the situation, passed away, unfortunately, there in 2022. But my mom is still there, and she can't leave because she's taking care of her almost 90 years old parents, which are my grandparents. They're not
Mhm.
going nowhere.
Right.
They don't know the language, and they live their whole lives. I mean, this is so natural and obvious. And then the parent is unstable financially. Well, how can I be financially stable if I'm literally losing my jobs
Mm.
because I'm experiencing panic attacks? You are constantly dragging me into the court, and I'm a subject of this constant abusive litigation. It's very aggressive. All my life is just for the past 6 years since I'm surrounded with this paperwork. And how am I supposed to be financially stable if you create this instability?
I think they enjoy it. It's the legal abuse syndrome is in the DSM-5, so they already have it in there, which I think is good because these abusers and this is they do this to their ex just for fun.
Absolutely. So, and then meanwhile, he's enjoying his life. Basically, yes, he knows that some movements are going on, but what does it cost for me, and most important for the child?
Hmm. Oh, he doesn't care.
That's the saddest part
Right.
because
You know,
yes,
so I know like the reason why all of this is going on because of Title 4, D, and E, and this is why they're flipping custody, even though I'm sure you lost your jobs and I lost my job, but they still went after me for child support. And it's like, but you made me lose my job. How can I even pay child support? That's why I just didn't understand why this was happening, but they were doing it out of vengeance and to get even with me for probably filing for divorce. I don't know.
absolutely. They get very vindictive for many things, for especially, when it's a high conflict case, which is for the majority of time fired up by the unethical attorneys who are, I'm sorry, I'll just say it straightforward, in cahoots
Mhm.
with the judges. And when the parents are exposing the child abuse, it's basically a trigger for them to flip the script and make the protective parent to go on and spin the wheels until the child or children even are not 18 years old. All
Mhm.
for the all for the profit. And that's what happened to me as well as to many of parents. At certain point, I noticed this fraudulent tactics a long time ago, and basically from the very first findings in order that was created by the opposing counsel of specifically July 9th of 2019. July 10th it was filed upon the hearing of July 9th. I just discovered, and I had an attorney, so I found some kind of attorney to be present at the first emergency hearing back then. And my daughter was actually given to me 50-50 automatically with no trial or anything, because I think it was just pre-planned action to just, overshadow the abuse, not to go any further and just establish 50-50 because it's so hard to change it from there. And when I looked at the filed um, findings in order after hearing, I was quite surprised to see that some things were changed in there. And so back then, within this order, we did receive a mutual restraining order for just 6 months so we can cool down. That's how the judge decided. And the opposing counsel as well was responsible for creating that thing. And when I read through the already filed documents, I discovered that she included there things that were not said during the hearing, along with a very interesting detail. So before that hearing happened back then, right, I wanted just to, because I had all the documents for myself, and our daughter just kept them in the folder, and he knew that. So I didn't want to create um, any conflicts, and I voluntarily gave both passports of our daughter to the safe of his attorney before the very first emergency hearing. But creating this order, she put in the restraining order Paragraph number 23, that mother was ordered to return child's Russian and American passports to the petitioner's attorney's safe. You know what I mean? So this narrative was created back then. So she tried to say that I still did not return these passports. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
While she had those passports already in her. So I had to go back and forth throughout years to the court to amend those orders, and that never stopped. The interesting thing is that my attorney at the time, I can't call it anything else but the conspiracy,
Hmm.
because she had to consult with me, my attorney, right? So I'm assuming that they conspired behind my back and maybe worked out the strategy how to drag this case for longer. So I fired that attorney, and I was on and off improper. A very important thing that in California, we have California rules of courts, specifically Rule 5.125, which, the law is there. It says all of it, but they don't follow it.
Mm-mm.
No. So she's consistently appointed for creating this findings in order. And even if I would ask to create it myself, I would never be granted that. So it's also, do you see the connection that she creates false orders, the judge rubber stamps it? It's
Yes.
always something. So this rule specifically says that whoever creates the findings in order is supposed to show the draft of this order, provide the draft to the opposing side within the 10 days after the hearing, and the opposing party is approving it or has an objection. And it has all to be going back and forth, and then come to, two versions of it have to come if we're in disagreement to the judge until a certain point, but it never happened. It's always that she creates false order, they rubber stamp it. I find it incorrect. I go to amend, and at the end, I got punished.
Yeah.
Or
Right. You're correcting that mistake, and somehow you're the bad guy.
right. I mean, that specific order I was talking about was the passports issue. I actually was able to amend that, but I had to pull my teeth and argue with this judge. I'm like, but
Mm-mm.
this is the fact. And I was kind of threatened since then, in a little bit informally. She asked me, the judge, how do you know that this order was created like incorrectly, intentionally? Because do you know that this is a crime? You can commit a crime if you say that it's intentional. And I said, well, judge, how can it be not intentional? How can you put this saying unintentional if you already have these documents?
And
Come
this,
on.
yeah, this goes on all the time. People don't realize what's really going on. And California doesn't have cameras in their courtrooms either.
It is a huge issue. And I know that a lot of investigative journalists are trying to bring this for decades. And, I mean, it's an intentional act. First of all, we can't, show the world how they behave. I mean, misbehave. And the body language says a lot. That's
Mhm.
why I strongly suggest that people have court observers in the courtrooms with them who take in thorough notes. Also, I know that they deem it illegal to record the hearings, but what do you do if you anticipate a criminal activity, literally
Hmm.
RICO violations of, it's all civil rights are violated. They don't care. What do you do in this situation? Because, um, and the other issue I wanted to talk out in connection is that, yeah, they stopped providing even indigent litigants with the opportunity to have a court reporter, right?
Hmm.
So it's all private. So in my court, half a day costs $500 to $600 to $700 just for their appearance, even if the hearing is postponed, continued for whatever reason, which I had because they said that, oh, we could not find an interpreter. Well, I don't believe that. But
No.
No. So the panel of Judicial Council of California has plenty of them, and these people, they want to go into the hearing because it's their income. They're waiting. They're waiting for being called.
Mhm.
And so the court reporters are private, even for indigent litigants, and we all know that the court reporter's transcript is the spinal cord of the appeal. Basically, it's almost impossible, let's be honest, right, to appeal it
Mhm.
without. I mean, you can go by settlement statements, but how can you settle anything with the opposing party, with the abuser? How do you do this? It's not going to be.
Right. And your judges aren't looking at evidence either, on
No,
top of these skewed transcripts.
no, yes. So my personal experience, since I'm currently in the appellate court, I I believe that I can be a subject of, another wave of very aggressive retaliation, but I feel like I have no choice. And if I have to suffer any consequences for that, and I'll tell you in a minute what I'm gonna do, I'll do it in a heartbeat because I'm done. My
Hmm.
life is ruined, and I feel like my daughter is, I mean, we have a great bond, but it's so sad. It's tragic. Every single time after the supervised visit, I can't even move for an hour. It's tragic. It's a tragedy because I see these changes, and I believe her mind is controlled, and you know they're attempting to alienate her from me.
Hmm.
No success so far though, but I can see some signs. And
Hmm.
but um basically, so I will say that I was provided by one of the court watchers, independent observer,
Right.
by let's say a couple of video recordings of those hearings. Because what people observed in that courtroom multiple times, they call it atrocity.
Hmm.
When the judge is literally ignoring the child's disclosure, which was, accidentally caught on the video. That's what started all of this, which indicates potential sexual misconduct
Hmm.
towards the minor child. And the witness whom this disclosure was said, who was present at that moment, who was ready to testify. So they both of it were ignored, and people could not believe that in another case he just praised improper mother who was concerned, who appeared without an attorney. She was concerned about her 14 years old son, I believe, comes back from father with, bruises from, and the father doesn't give her answers. So this judge was just furious. He called her, yes, I totally understand your mama bear and you so care about your child. We are going to find out right now. And he ordered the opposing counsel of the dad to call the dad immediately and find out, not the dad, but dad and the counsel, to call the dad's brother because mother believed that child goes to his brother, dad's brother, his uncle, and maybe they're playing rough games. So, and they just said, yeah, you guys go outside right now, call your brother, and we're gonna bring him on a court call, and he will explain this mom what is happening
Oh,
with child. So, yeah, it appeared to be they were just playing rough and did some kind of outdoor activities. So, but that was such a concern. And there was a spit in my face right next to this case when I'm bringing this allegations of sexual misconduct, which was never investigated. And it was another story, and he just ignores and keeps asking, okay, so what else?
no.
And we're repeating it again. And he was like, okay, so what else? What else? And like he gets very angry, and all this body language was taking glasses off and rubbing the face, and
Uh,
you can see this shaking lips and yelling even at my observers when they shake, their
right.
heads, not because they just shock, like, no, it didn't happen. And when he points the finger at my court observer and screams, You are going to be removed, sir. If you will shake your head one more time, I'm going to put you in that corner there where I cannot see you. So, I mean, when you see this, what do? So now what I did, I started to compare that specific hearing with the transcript in preparation to my appeal.
Mhm.
I discovered that this transcript has quite a few very serious omissions
Mhm.
and alternation of the legal citations that I brought in my defense. And when I tried to peacefully resolve it without disclosure originally that I have a recording, I later had to disclose it to the a court reporter agency that, yes, I was provided with this video because the public was shocked. You know what they did? I said, well, I understand people make mistakes and maybe it was a typo, so I'm kindly asking to change it. And the response was that they hired an attorney. So all communications will be through the attorney. So why do you need to hire an attorney if you had done it unintentionally? Just correct the mistake.
Right. Oh, they won't. No.
Well, I mean, here's the question comes to my mind now. How, so how many people actually thought about that? Why is it so difficult to win the appeal? Because there was the transcript is the spinal cord of the appeal, right? And you will not believe it how critical every word is. I'm not even talking about altered legal citations, right? Or omissions, but every single word it has a meaning for the appellate court. I don't know if many people using AI or I prefer ChatGPT. And when you just analyze it, it lays you so clearly what legal impact it does.
Mhm.
And when this transcript altered, like what do you do? And I had another issue with another transcript, which I have to admit, because what do you do? Like I don't have any choice. I have to explode this
Mhm.
because it was a systemic problem. And I don't know if it will help me if I file it under the seal within the appellate court at first and admit that I do have this recording because I
Mhm.
anticipate activity. So look at that, and I'm asking for corrections because there is no point for me to continue on this appeal without corrected transcripts. There was another outrageous hearing when I was denied an ADA accommodations and linguistics accommodations.
Mhm.
At that point, I had a court interpreter, and mind you that these court interpreters they have to be taken from a certain a panel of court interpreters, right? Meet certain qualifications. So in California, it's a California Judicial Council's panel of court interpreters, which have to meet certain qualifications and have a certification from the American, I believe it's American Translation Association. So all these people, which are dozens of them, maybe hundreds, well, dozens specifically serve in my county, they have, phone numbers listed, they have emails listed, their credentials listed, so they're all good to go. But when
Mhm.
I started to analyze one of the most outrageous hearing transcript of April 9, 2024, I noticed that the introduction of the interpreter's part was missing out of the transcript. So only because I have these notes and recording, I was able to restore the interpreter certification number. So when I started my little investigation, I made my request to the Judicial Council's panel regarding this interpreter qualification because it was a complete mess. She didn't even know the word petitioner.
Oh.
And on top, the judge was interrupting her constantly. So that hearing was a mess of 2 hours,
Mhm.
and she did not interpret correctly. And at that point, at certain point, I even said it to the judge. I said, Judge, I can't allow this hearing to get going because she's not interpreting correctly, respectfully.
Mhm. Mhm.
Said, no, she's a qualified court interpreter, so I'm going to hire the interpreter, not you, because she's certified interpreter and you are not. And I said, Your Honor, I'm asking for ADA accommodation basically so I can speak because also as a disabled individual, I have a cognitive problems. Can you imagine to speak in my native language, the English legal terms,
Mhm.
the interpreter gets it correctly and interprets it back the way it's supposed to be. There's so many missing parts in between, even if she's super qualified, and I was ordered to talk only in my native language. And I said, and it was an argument back and forth between me and judge. And I was threatened with incarceration. I literally saw the deputy coming behind my back because I was trying to correct this interpreter in English, and contempt of court. And I said, you know what? If you want to hold me in contempt of court, just do it right now. Do it.
Mhm.
Because I am not going to allow you to continue this hearing to hear the interpretation, incorrect interpretation. This is not what I'm saying. So I was basically coerced and forced under duress to waive my right for the interpreter at that hearing. But the other outrageous part is that the judge stated that he needs to test my English skills in this instance. I mean, I just was literally speaking to him, right, explaining that
Mhm.
that it's incorrect in English, and he could hear me. But the questions that he was testing me with were very humiliating.
Oh.
He was asking me in this manner, all right, Miss Wilson, so what is the date today? Okay, all right, Miss Wilson, very good. Who is the President of the United States, Miss Wilson?
Oh.
What city are we in today, Miss Wilson? So, that was shocking.
These are also questions psychiatrists ask patients. I used to be a psych nurse, and to test for cognitive impairment with the elderly. And this judge is putting you through that?
All right. To grant my request to waive the interpreter if I don't have any other options, but I actually asked an ADA as an ADA accommodation to have this interpreter. I mean, this interpreter is already here. Why can't I just speak myself in English? Because it's easier to me to pronounce these legal terms that I know, and have the interpreter just on the side to be able to ask for translation of certain terms that I'm not aware of, but I was denied. And so going back to the transcript, right, when that part of interpreter's qualification was omitted, when I went back and I checked with the judicial panel and with American Association of Translators, so I got a confirmation from everywhere. No one knows who this interpreter was. So she appeared to be not qualified court interpreter. And I believe it was perhaps an intentional act to bring an unqualified interpreter into the court hearing. So, and another layer over it, right, that the reporters also altered the incorrect interpretation. Like, how do you deal with that other than you just say, yes, I do have these recordings, and at least maybe try to file these disclosures under the seal, if maybe that's an option. But it got me frozen literally for over a month. So I'm working through that, but I do expect retaliation at any moment.
That's so wrong. You know,
Yeah.
what these court watchers should do, and what I have done, if I see a judge misbehaving like that, uh, I would report them immediately to wherever you report judges to in that state.
Right.
That
Yes,
would be helpful if everyone did that.
absolutely. Yes. Court watchers, it's very important. So, and my court watchers, a couple of them, they actually have done this along with my complaints to the oversight agency, which is the Commission of the Judicial Performance in California.
Mhm.
I mean, we all know it's the same organization in connection as the California State Bar. These people do not investigate. I mean, 1 to 2 cases a year out of thousands. I mean, what are they doing there? I
Mhm.
filed, I believe, 7 consecutive complaints as my case was going, and my first actually went out a few months before my daughter was taken actually in my absence in the courtroom when I was deemed vexatious litigant. So I was begging for help because I was seeing this is coming. I knew,
Hmm.
I knew. And they probably knew that I did it. I mean, that's the retaliation that came back. And I strongly believe if I wouldn't take certain steps like filing this complaint and after that messy hearing with the interpreter, I started to serve this judge with the affidavits for disqualification for cause based on constitutional violations. I know that's maybe not the standard procedure in California, but you know, you have an oath of office.
Right.
You swear to serve the Constitution and with the people, and you're saying that you're swearing to protect this country from all the foreign and internal enemies. So I actually even wrote the letter to the presiding judge. I said, well, presiding judge, what do you think is Michael Candela treating me as? Am I considered an outside of the United States enemy or internal enemy? Whatever this phrasing is. And I think that rolled the ball and I started to file these complaints and my discoveries, what I found about the whole, little system within this county, how it works with certain attorneys and certain judges, how they juggle these cases. And because I spent countless hours inside of the courthouse and I saw this tight connections. It's not a coincidence, it's a pattern.
Hmm.
And I started to file this and here we go. And they rushed it so bad into closing this case that they didn't even allow this to go into the trial. They just ruled the custody and deemed me vexatious litigant without even the request for order for such. Yeah.
Yeah, California is bad that way. I mean, parents say, which state is the worst? I just, it seems like they're all behaving badly.
They all, California and I mean every single state basically. I mean, being within this nationwide movement
Mhm.
um, and working in collaboration with other groups. I mean, we
Right,
seek experience from.
right. And if you speak up, then they retaliate.
Right.
For once, I'd like to say something good about a judge. I'm trying to find something. So, and you've just been through so much, and so there is all the cameras in the courtroom need to happen. This transcription reform, you know, I can't, I mean, I do believe they're doing this because I have another case with Mark Andrews where they messed with his transcripts. Susan Bassi was covering that as well. And it's
Yes.
just terrible.
It's absolutely terrible. It's just so easy, So when I was filing my complaints, I was digging into a lot of also, all different kind of information about these judges trying to gather like how they operate. And um, I discovered the budgets. It's actually public information that
Mhm.
everyone can do that. And specifically for my county, right? And interestingly, the standard salary for the judges in California, so the budget of Butte County judges reflects their annual salary at least 30,000 more annually per each judge, higher than the California standard salary. You know what I mean? So that raises a serious question. Is it an unjust enrichment? Like, why can you raise each judge's salary at this amount, but you saying that you don't have enough budget money to put cameras in each courtroom or at least provide a free court reporter? These court reporters are so unnecessary. It's an unnecessary layer,
Hmm.
financial extortion, no more, no less. Just take these court reporters out. We don't need them. Put the cameras inside of every courtroom and
Oh, that and tamper-proof mics because I was court watching and the pro se litigant was giving her closing argument, and the judge, I guess he got tired of that, so he muted her. So I had to report that.
yes, this
So
is.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry. It's like I encourage everyone to report all these actions. I know you can't report the ruling. There's nothing you can do about the ruling, but their actions and behaviors. Oh, yes, please report.
Yes, absolutely. And every single oversight agency have this rules in place, and you can see their canons, what they're violating, make references in your complaints. I mean, not that they will investigate it, but hey, you have a paper trail. This is your proof that um, they failed you.
Hmm.
They failed you, even on a state level. So, um,
And they're failing parents and they're failing your daughter who needs you. And this is not necessary. What they put parents and children through, I think it's a form of, trafficking for money, even for the parents to keep paying these lawyers. They want this.
absolutely, it's a child trafficking. It's a legalized child abduction. It's basically, you name these violations, right? The deprivation of civil rights under the color of law.
Mhm.
It's That's what they're doing. Um, Child trafficking, yes. So as I mentioned, also, the we didn't touch the subject of CPS deeply as well. So in my case,
Mhm.
basically, this second time when I was deprived from my daughter, I didn't go to court with this sexual misconduct allegations because I was advised by my attorney that the courts are corrupt.
Mhm.
And by then, I was pretty experienced litigator myself, I think, in terms of that. I knew that how easy they can flip the script and flip the custody, right?
And
So
this,
the allegations, I'm sorry.
you go ahead.
So- Thank you. So the allegations of it's a very serious allegation, right? I mean, even uh, though I don't want to deal with my ex in any form and shape, but I mean, he's a father of my daughter,
Mhm.
and to put him through falsely alleging that the sexual misconduct is a very serious thing. And I mean, I get that, right? You have to have something substantiated, but when you have a video recording, what do you do of your child disclosure, which was captured accidentally in the presence of a witness?
Mhm.
And I was advised not to go to the court, but to refer this to the CPS, Butte County CPS, and law enforcement, as well as child's therapeutic facility, which was Butte County Behavior Health, and the child's school, at least her teacher and a social worker. So I did that all of those steps, and I have all the proofs that I contacted them, not only personally, but via emails, providing them with this disclosure and just asking for help, questioning, asking, so, and then that happened in January of 2023. And on June 1st of 2023, I got deprived from my daughter on these false allegations without a notice. And alongside so when I tried to gather the evidence of what, well, evidence, like, let's say, the records from the CPA, or just to follow up on, I guess, investigation, was it open? What's the status?
Mhm.
I was consistently ignored by CPS, and I had to go through another hoop. I had to file the juvenile court case to withdraw this by the petition 828, I believe it's called in California. It's an access to the juvenile records through
Mhm.
CPS. And I'll tell you why, because a year passed since I reported, so as a few mandated reporters reported what happened to my daughter, allegedly.
Mhm.
I was thinking that CPS investigates or does something, but they were circling me around for a year in my attempts to gather this evidence, or at least find out what the status. And when I started to pursue this in a legal manner, citing case law, um, and the regulations upon which I could at least review these records, I was invited
Mhm.
into this facility. I was met with by their social worker, which looked at me like I was an alien, and he asked me a question. He said, "Miss Wilson, are you sure you filed within Butte County? You reported it in Butte County?" And I said, "Where are we at right now? We are in Butte County, right? So yes, I am sure." He said, "Well, it's quite odd because I couldn't find any indication of any reports of neither yours or any mandated reporters, like it never existed. That's what started this petition in juvenile court. So I wanted to see what they're going to do now. They're telling me that there is no record within their system.
Mhm.
And if I request it through juvenile court, what are they going to produce? So the judge actually granted me my petition
Mm.
and unredacted copies of these records. And I strongly believe, because I saw so many inconsistencies of what they produced, just little teeny tiny itty bitty thing to just justify that actually it was found unsubstantiated, right?
Mhm.
I strongly believe that when I started this petition, they backlogged to have at least something in a system, something like teeny tiny to just say, oh, we didn't find nothing. But they were not going to investigate. And going back to federal funding under Title 4E, here we go, right?
Mhm.
So we're having some sort of whistleblower who was very tight in connection to specifically Butte County CPS system. And it was disclosed to us, parents within the coalition, that she, as a social worker, was told by her supervisors to never investigate into child abuse allegations, not even go there. Don't touch it. There is an attorney within CPS. Yes, they're going to handle this. So their primary focus was to rip the children out of the family's hands for
Mhm.
the profit, which is funded by Title 4E. So don't investigate the abuse, but here's your focus.
Right, that and their beloved Title 4B for CPS. So how many kids they get some type of bonus, I've heard.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're getting an incentive for every single child. And
Mm.
uh, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be any oversight agency, because I do believe, right, that I mean, we need something
Hmm.
in a form and a shape that it exists nowadays, while um, Connie regularly. There was another
Yeah.
lead, another group, Family Forward Project. I'm following her, and I love her work as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like how she framed this, the CPS agency, right? It claims that it's Child Protective Services.
Hmm.
It is a quasi-prosecutorial agency, basically. They're there to take your children, not to investigate child abuse.
Exactly.
We need to do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I'm with Connie. I've had her on several times, and I think CPS should just be abolished. Um, I've had Mark and Terry Stamen on from letourchildrengo.org, and you know, they advised just call the police. If there is a problem, why use CPS? And if you think about it, it's logical. Why even use them? They serve no earthly purpose but just to break up families. And really, the police should be doing their jobs and investigating all of this. And I'll even attach that if you're going to call in false allegations on people, you should be forced to give your name, phone number, and address, which is what the
Absolutely.
police would be doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not the only one, right, who experienced that. And
I'm so
um,
sorry.
yeah, when you call the law enforcement, you go in there and say, hey, please help. My phone calls were abrupted, and like in the middle of my speech, and I was just, why are they all saying that this is a civil issue? Go to family court. No, this is not a civil issue.
Hmm.
This is a criminal issue, and it starts with the law enforcement, followed by the law enforcement um, testimonies, perhaps within the family court. It's all backwards for
It
some
is all
reason.
backwards. Right. And law enforcement was never trained on custodial interference penal codes. So it's like they come out of their police academy and they don't know anything about this.
They don't. They don't. But what breaks my heart is that they all have their own families, and I mean not all of them, but many of them, right? And you're a public servant. You as well pledged to serve the Constitution. We're the people, and when you see these blatant violations of people's civil rights and how families are torn apart and what's done with the children, if you're enacting, you're refusing to act, that means that you're complicit.
Hmm.
And I'm sorry, this is a treason. And to me personally, it looks like a reason that they sent you to the family court saying that it's a civil issue. It's almost like they're trained. It's like, like a mafia style, kind of like they divide the territories. This is our territory. We're dealing with this. For example, I don't know, chasing poor homeless people, like on 3 or 4 cars with a few officers inside, like wasting taxpayers' money.
Hmm.
The homeless guy who probably, became homeless because maybe he was tortured through the family court. We don't know
Right.
what happened to him.
Or he's a veteran. Who
Or
knows?
absolutely. Or he's a veteran. You know, and here is the family court. It's their territory, so we're kind of separating these things. Truly like a mafia style. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Other people have said that. They've called it a cartel. Uh,
Absolutely.
it's out of control, and I think change is coming.
I
I
strongly believe.
go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to yes to say to agree with you that I believe this change is coming. Our work within the group and collaboration with our groups. I know that the guys are working on some bills within many states and just make a global change through the United States Supreme Court as a class action lawsuit. So I hope that something is going to be changing soon, especially within the political changes inside of the country. We're not going to go deep into politics,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
but
Definitely, but yeah, it's coming. It's just going to take some time, and it has to have transparency. And everyone's heard me. I think family court should just be abolished and go into civil court, where if a parent wants a jury, then they should have a jury. And if there's these false accusations that people feel they have to use on you, then that should go through criminal court. And there should be a penalty for people constantly making one false accusation after another.
absolutely. I'm almost thinking, if I'm vexatious litigant, what is that then, right?
Right. Oh yeah,
So,
they did that to me too. Oh, I
um,
was litigious.
right. So it's basically just to shut you down, so you stop filing and exposing the truth. And so what I believe in changes, and interestingly, actually, my judge just retired. No one knows why. In the beginning of his next term. I mean,
Interesting.
it's very interesting, right? Because it might be. I cannot allege that it's the truth, that it's just some form of the pension protection. Maybe there is some kind of pending investigation going on.
Mhm.
Because it's not, I'm sorry, Judge Candela, it's not only the violations of the canons, the judicial canons.
Mhm.
It's basically a lot of financial fraud on a personal level that I discovered.
Mhm.
And yes, I did report that. And yes, he knows that.
Mhm. And that's just they have to accept this, because if they would just do the right thing, we wouldn't be having this podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're not going to stop. And the damage is done. And, these people were given too many chances to change what was done so wrong.
Hmm.
I mean, they're just playing with people's lives and children's health and lives. They're creating unstable generations.
Exactly.
What are these kids going to grow into? How high is the percentage of the people who get themselves in trouble in different forms, and in the future, it's a huge percent of kids
Hmm.
who were torn away from one or the other parent, or both parents by the system. This is tragic. We will not stay aside. We will keep fighting.
See, I'm so glad you came on to speak out. I wish more parents would tell their tale. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to say to everyone who is currently going through this nightmare, stay strong, don't give up, keep fighting, keep educate yourself on the laws and regulations within your state and in general within the United States. Please join support groups. Find something that brings you peace, because you have to be healthy and strong to keep this fight, not only for your children, but for our future generations. Please don't be afraid to speak up and support others. So,
No, that's very important what you just said about to find something that brings you peace. So when you do hopefully get these kids back, you're in the best version of you as a parent that they remember.
yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And in general, let's keep working on abolishing these atrocities
Hmm.
and making this global changes. I mean, yes, it's gonna probably take a lot of time, like a lot of time, but we just we just have to get going with that.
Right? And keep speaking out. And I'm so glad I had you on. Olga, how do you want people to reach you if they have any questions?
Yes, I basically can provide my email if they would like to reach out to me. Should I?
Sure.
Yes, so it's Olga V Wilson at gmail.com. OLGA V as in Victor Wilson, WILSON at gmail.com. I'll be happy to talk to you and provide my insights and share my experience and support if I
Hmm.
as I can, and get you in connection with our group,
Hmm.
where you will find a lot of litigants from your own state and perhaps even your own county dealing with the same actors. Let's brainstorm together. What can we do for
Hmm.
the nation in general and for your own case?
Definitely. And another interesting website out there is childabusivejudges.com, where you can go look at that and you can enter your judge and all these bad actors on there. So you may find that there have already been complaints on your judge.
Absolutely, yes. And I wanted to add that on this oversight agency's website, such as Commission on Judicial Performance in California state specifically, there are certain publications and archives. You can do your research, and you can find a lot of interesting information there.
Mm-hmm.
It, I personally found the two judges in my county, from my county, who were penalized by these commissions, but yet they still functioning as current judges. So quite interesting.
Well, they're making a lot of money for their friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, hey, don't jump off, okay? Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms that are out there. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. I thank you, Olga Wilson, for speaking out, and especially on this transcription issue. I totally appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Marianne, and thank you so much, everyone, for being with us and listening today. So yes, let's stay strong and let's keep going
Definitely.
together. Together. Thank you.